do, I'd just like to share a couple of things with you. And for the wonderful alums who have come back here, bear with me because I'm going to tell one story that came about due to a question last night from Larry McCarron when we got together at the Green and Gold Gala. Dad knew how fortunate he was to be a part of an organization that had such intelligent, dedicated, hard-working, committed teammates that you see scattered throughout here. I see Coach Curry, and I see Carol Dale, and Boyd Dowler, and Jerry, and Dave. Paul's right here in the front row, and on, and a phenomenal coach, obviously. And he took great pride in that. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, this came about in response to a question that Larry McCarron of the Packers posed to us last night. He said, tell us a little bit about the time when you realized when your dad had the proper perspective on life. And I think I was old enough then to get it. And we were boarding a bus, which I was lucky enough to ride on, from Lambeau Field to St. Norbert College in De Pere, where they had their training camp. And can you imagine being a kid and sitting on a bus with Paul Horning and these guys, and just kind of looking around, you can hardly fathom that this is right, but there was always a little bit of a delay because Dad was signing a lot of autographs. And when you're 7 years old, you're impatient. And so I got on the bus after doing all of those autographs. I said, Dad, you sure sign a lot of those. Can you speed that up a little bit? He said, son, hold it right there. He said, I want you to remember something. Every one of these fans has the same value in the eyes of our Maker as every one of my teammates. And that was around the time that you, John, asked Dad to help build your vision for this remarkable facility. And it's totally consistent. If I could take all of you right now and pretend this is Dad's office down here in Birmingham. You're sitting at his desk looking at the most prominent wall in his office. You know how proud he was to be associated with the Packers and how he loved every one of his teammates and all the fans and the community. But the picture that he looked at every day, staring directly out from his desk, was one of the boys collectively smiling at him and Mom from Rawhide. That's what meant the most to him. He loved the idea of unity of purpose and helping build those young men character and commitment to their community. And I know, John, if he was here today, he'd give you a big hug for giving him the honor of helping you fulfill your vision that's been going on almost 55 years. So now we're going to have a little bit of fun because I have the honor of sort of combining some personal and football stories with these gentlemen. And I'm going to kind of go in sort of chronological order when they got to Green Bay. And Jerry, I'm going to start with you. This morning I had the honor of meeting with someone who's putting together a great film on Jerry's life. And I think we're going all the way back to 1958, was it, or so? You came a long way from Idaho. Could you share with our group here a couple of things? One, the difference between 1958 and 59, and how that difference changed your life in so many ways, not just football related, but let's start off with football because I think we do want to hear a couple stories there, and then talk about how that helped you grow as an individual as well, if you would, please.
Thank you, Bart, and thank you all for being here. Great to be with you. 1958 was a lot of fun. We only won one, we tied one, and we lost 10. As a great New York columnist said, we whelmed one, we overwhelmed one, and we underwhelmed 10. But we did have a wonderful time, didn't we, Paul? And then this fella named Lombardi came to town. I'll never forget the opening remarks at our first meeting. If you're not willing to make the sacrifice, to pay the price, to do the things that are necessary to win in this league, to put your team first, there are only three things in your life that are critical: your God, your family, and the Green Bay Packers. And there are trains and planes leaving here every day, and some of you may be on them. So it's a long story of his impact and his principles and his beliefs. We're honoring Bart today, and I have an early memory. Bart was not only a wonderful human being and a beautiful man, but he was a quiet man. And I think a lot of the teammates and the people in the NFL mistook that quiet man for being a bit timid or something. And we really didn't know who Bart was. We had Joe Francis, we had Lamar McCann, we had Babe Parilli, we had 4 or 5 other quarterbacks that were in and out, and Bart was in and out and back and forth. And we're playing Chicago one day, always Chicago it seems like, and they haven't had a decent quarterback since Sid Luckman in 1942. But they have had some great middle linebackers, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, this particular play, Bart threw a long ball down the right sidelines. My defensive tackle stops, turns around, he's watching the ball, I'm watching the ball, Bart's watching the ball, Ringo's watching the ball. Bill George, the middle linebacker for the Bears, is not watching the ball. But Bart's standing there with his arms down to his side, and Bill takes about a 5-yard run and hits him in the mouth with a forearm, knocks him back on his keister and said, "That ought to take care of you, Starr, you wuss." And Bart Starr said, "Bleep you, Bill George, we're coming after you." And I looked at Bart and I went, "Bart, you're bleeding like a stuck hog. You better go get sewed up." He said, "Shut up and get in the huddle." I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." So Bart gets in the huddle, takes it, he's bleeding all down the front of his jersey, and really lip is cut up into his nose. So he takes us down the field 5 or 6, 7 plays, and we score, go to the sidelines. They lay him down on the bench, and we're not as delicate as the boys today. They just sewed him up right there. So he never missed a play. We got the ball back in 3 or 4 minutes. He jumped up and came back in the huddle and took it down the field again. He did talk a little funny because that lip was way out in front of me, but he had a little bit of a lip. But we knew at that moment that Bart Starr had some steel in his back. That he was not just a quiet guy. He had some strength, and he had some character, and he had some other wonderful parts of manhood in his being and who he was. So it was a wonderful moment for all of us, and especially for Bart. And very quickly, he did a couple things during the next couple of years that was only done once, never before, no practice, no comments, no nothing, and never again. He allowed me to call about 8 plays in a college all-star game. I know, you don't look at me like I'm a guard. Bubba Smith is defensive tackle, 6'8", 285. Should be slow, is not. He gets on Bart, lays on him, says all night long, "Old man, Bubba gonna be in here on top of you." All night long. And they had taken a full-page ad in the Chicago Trib with Bubba on the ad, the length of the ad, and the bottom said, "Come see Bubba kill Bart." Which is a wonderful thing for an offensive lineman to experience, right? Well, Bubba got on him, and Bart got back in the huddle and said, "Jerry, you hear what he said?" "No." He told me, and he goes, "What do you want?" "I want 41 trap." So I trapped Bubba. He came back in the next huddle. We gained 6, 7, 8 yards. Came back and got in the huddle again. Said, "What do you want?" I said, "Bring Fuzzy down, Fuzzy across. Bring Forrest down. Bring Ringo over." And I got the call about 7 or 8 plays, and we made about 7 or 8 yards on every play. And I look across for Bubba on about the 8th play, and Bubba is patting himself on the head. And he's walking to the sidelines, and he's taking himself out of the game. And we all giggled a little bit about that. But it was not something we practiced, and not something I expected, and it never happened again. So it was really interesting that Bart had the intellect, the capacity, the brains, the confidence to do something like that in the middle of a ball game. And he did it before. We're playing the Bears again, and our snap signal, we go set 147, and if it's on 1, you go on the first hut. And there's a defensive tackle over there slobbering, looking at you, that's about 280 pounds, and he's wanting your attention. So Bart said, set 247, and the next sound is supposed to be a hut. And so you're all tight and ready to come off the ball, and the defense shifts. Everybody moves into the direction we're going to run the play, and Bart goes, "Easy. Hold it. 1:36." And he runs to the opposite side of the field. We gain 7 yards instead of losing 3 yards or 4 yards. So he could adjust. A bright mind, a bright human being, a wonderful captain, a wonderful human being. Remember Coach Lombardi's comment about after the game was over, the stadium is empty, the lights are out, you walk in the quiet of your room, your championship ring is on the dresser. The only thing left at this time is to live a life of excellence and quality and make this whole world a better place because you were in it.
Oh.
Starr made this whole world a better place because he was in it.
You folks know why he's been the author of 4 successful books. That's it, Boyd. I'm going to turn to you now. Was it the next? You got to follow that. Now,
come up with somebody else, Paul?
So another guy who came out from out west, playing in Colorado, and Boyd, your timing was just a little bit better getting to Green Bay. And a lot of people do not realize that. Because when you think of Coach Lombardi, his gruff demeanor and everything, some people forget that he was an offensive mastermind when he was at the New York Giants. He was the offensive coordinator. It was Coach Landry, Tom Landry, who was the defensive coordinator. And Boyd, can you tell us a little bit from your perspective about what you learned from Coach Lombardi's schemes and how he took advantage of your talents? You were one of the first players as a rookie to play for Coach Lombardi. And you did so successfully for a full decade, and wound up being, remember, the